Buddy, appreciate you hanging with us. We are Sports Day, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. If you miss any of the show, you can always go back. Go to JAKIBsports.com, go to JAKIB Sports YouTube channel, go back and watch segments of the program. That's for sure. Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis hanging out with you. All right, 17 days, as we mentioned, until the draft. So let's explore this, guy. So the Eagles sit there at 10-30. That much we know. And we've looked at it, I think, in a lot of ways. All right, are they going to trade back? Because they need to get picks in the 4th round, 5th round, potentially, which is what Howie likes to do, have a surplus of picks. But you're in a great spot at 10-30 where you could either use that 10, use one of your second round, or that 30, maybe one of your second round picks and vault up, okay, in the draft to maybe take one of these big time impactful defensive players. So if you look at the order as of right now, and there's a lot of conjecture about teams looking to trade with the Cardinals. I think Adam Schefter reported there's upwards of 5 teams looking to jump into that spot right now with Arizona. So right now you have Carolina and Houston. I think we'd all agree they're going quarterback, right, guys?
Yes. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And then 4, Colts could take it a couple different ways, but they certainly are in need of a quarterback too. So there's 3 out of the first 4 that need quarterbacks. Arizona may be sitting there dangling because they need a lot of help, saying, all right, come on, what do you got? So if you're the Eagles, let's just hypothetically, play this out for a minute. Do you try and get up to Arizona, grab Will Anderson? Do you grab Jalen Carter here and fortify that defensive line with another stud?
It would take both 10 and 30 to do it. Is Carter worth it? I think he is worth it. He's somebody they're talking about, and just from the film I've seen with him, I look at him and I see his game along the lines of a Leon Lett. That's how good in high regard I put him up there. I played against Leon Lett. El Gato. He was a pain in the ass to try to block. And I see Jalen Carter's the same type of player. Plays long, plays explosive. You know what I'm saying? So
Barrett, what distinguishes, just for people who may not know, tell me what distinguishes Carter from Jordan Davis. How are they different?
Oh, first of all, it's just the athletic talent, the explosiveness, the motor. He just has the pass rushing moves. He has the pass rushing body to be great.
So a much more accomplished pass rusher at this juncture than Jordan Davis was.
Much more accomplished, change direction, hand fighting, technique, will to be the greatest. You get that from him.
Ability to push the pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
See, Jordan Davis is a space eater.
Yep.
See, he's going to be utilized to eat up space to allow others around him to make plays. As Fletcher Cox was used in a lot of his, even under Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz would tell you there's a lot of little dirty things that a Fletcher Cox does you don't see in the stats, but it allows the overall defense to be more effective. And I see that's Jordan Davis's role. But what Barrett is talking about, this guy's ability to collapse the pocket, to sneak between the picket fence, the openings in the picket fence, at an explosive rate and a much more consistent rate to make it uncomfortable back there. My only concern with the Eagles is, and Barrett says it would take 10 and 30, and I thought about that, but I thought Howie might have to dangle a little bit more attractive carrot, maybe like a future pick, like a future high pick next year. Howie may want to hold on to that 30 and try to dangle some future capital in 2024 to possibly pull this off. He doesn't have the draft capital other than 2 first-round picks to do that this year.
He does in 24, Derek.
In 24, he does.
Yep.
But, they need bodies now. I mean, you lost your number 5 top tacklers on defense. Mm-hmm. You need to get some supporting cast in there now. And you're not going to pick them off all on free agency, because if that was the case, these guys would have jobs. Let's go back to last year. We were wowed by them going out there and getting those 2 D tackles. And for the most part, they helped. But then we saw cracks in the armor, especially in the playoffs, when those guys were not being as effective as they were. And obviously it was glaring in the Super Bowl, in terms of what they weren't able to do. You need to get some youth in there and let them grow together with the Jordan Davis, with the Nakobe Dean. Have that nucleus that's growing together. And you're doing it at a much cheaper level than you normally would. And I think they're in a prime position now. Giving up 10, that's a lot, you know, to jump up to 3. And you're right, Barrett. It could be worth it if one of those two players is the next coming of the greatest defensive player at their positions. Then we'll look back and say, "Man, what a smart move by Howie!" But it's such a crapshoot because of inconsistencies. Look at how many first-round picks end up being first-round busts. That's a big commodity to give up.
We still don't know about our first rounder from last year.
No, we don't, and that's huge. That's exactly right. We don't know what Jordan Davis is. We know he has a potential based on the metrics of what we've seen of him.
Yeah, you're right.
And man, that size running a 4.7, 4.8, it didn't translate into that. And when he was healthy, after he was injured, his numbers dwindled instead of increased. And we still don't know why. And see, that's a concern for me. Now you got a whole offseason. You don't have Javon Hargrave standing in your way anymore. So now it's on Jordan Davis to excel and to take the next rep to move up. But like Barrett said, we don't know. Jordan Davis is a big mystery moving forward into 2023.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think look, I don't think the Eagles would ever come out publicly and say that, but I think that's a little bit of a concern. Then you look at it, go to the edge. You got Brandon at 35. You got Derek Barnett likely in his last year. That leaves you with Reddick and Sweat and not a ton else in terms of it being able to rush the passer. Will Anderson's that guy. If you wanted to go that route.
Will Anderson can do it, man. Will Anderson, we're talking about another guy that has those characteristics of being really good, being great. I liken him to be a guy to come in and start day one, opposite of Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
Put that together. Opposite of Hassan Reddick.
I mean, think about how nasty that would be.
Will Anderson on one side, Hassan Reddick the other side. Who are you going to stop? Who are you going to slide as an offensive coordinator? Who are you going to slide the line to?
But that's the thing. Go back to last year. You had, what did you have? You had the two ones last year, right? And you traded one for A.J. Brown.
Right.
I don't think anybody's complaining what they gave up. And I understand AJ was already established and these guys are rookies and you're gambling a little bit because you never know if rookies are going to work out. But still, I don't think anybody would mind if you traded up and gave another resource up, in addition to that, and Will Anderson turns into, a 12 sack per year guy or Jalen Carter's everything, Barrett just laid out. Like I'm willing, and Howie's always erring on the side of aggression. So this wouldn't surprise me if he does this kind of thing.
If Howie has his eyes set on one of those two players and gets itchy, I can see him making that move, especially when you think in terms of the 9 teams, with the Eagles sitting in a 10 hole, of the 9 teams in front of Howie, 6 of those very easily could take the defensive players, which means those 2 won't even be on the board by the time Howie. I mean, look at the other teams: Arizona, Seattle, Detroit, Raiders, Atlanta, Chicago. All defense.
No doubt.
All defense. So 6 of the 9, we believe the 1, 2, and 4 are targeting quarterbacks of the future. But there's 6 out of those other 9s that could very easily look for defensive help. J.J. Watt retired in Arizona. Defense, okay? You look at Detroit. They got Aiden Hutchinson. Put somebody on the other side of him. Defense. Raiders, defense was a sieve. Atlanta's defense was a sieve. Look how much money they spent this offseason. Calais Campbell said, Arthur Smith said he wants a, what did he call it? What kind of a defense was it? Not a scary defense, but it was something along the lines of a nasty defense. This spells defense. Chicago, look at the money they spent. Tremont Edwards, AJ, TJ Edwards, more defense. See, so Howie's got to be a little nervous in terms of if he has 2 players identified in the top 10 spot, there ain't no way they're getting put down to 10.
You'd almost have to get there, because even if you just if Arizona just sits pat, they're taking a defender and likely, you're right, Seattle or Detroit is. So that those 2 guys, if you're really targeting them, are out the window by then. There's no way they last past that.
The first defensive player that's going to go is likely going to be Will Anderson. the next guy off the board is like going to be Jalen Carter. So whoever, you know what I'm saying, if you really want to go out there and make, you know, and make a you got to excuse they're doing the yard outside.
Well, no worries, man.
You got to go up and get them because the next two teams, Arizona and Seattle, are going Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, or Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. And then Detroit turned back around, gets either Van Ness or Wilson, Tyree Wilson, if you want any of those two guys. Then you go to, like you said, Atlanta. They need a corner. So that's probably where Gonzalez goes there.
Yep.
So the Bears, they
could go O-line.
I would think they would go O-line to protect their quarterback. But they could go defense also because they let their best defender go. And
their defense isn't great. I mean,
they sold all their defensive players.
They did. They spent a lot of money, you know. But
yeah. We just got the wrong Bear.
You know what? I had forgotten about Robert Quinn for about 5 minutes. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate you.
He had to remind us, man.
He had to go. You had to go there.
I told you when that trade was made.
I know.
You guys would not believe me. You wouldn't believe me.
No, I was hoping. Okay, the guy had 18 sacks a year ago, and then he fell off the face of the earth. I don't know how do you explain it,
bro. When he walked in, dog. When he brought him in, he walked in looking older than I did, man. He looked worse than I do getting up in the morning. And he was just walking, and he had a long walk from there. It took a long walk from getting to the parking lot into the locker room. And I don't look that bad when I get up and go into the bathroom in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Let alone,
oh my goodness.
You could tell his feet was hurting, his back was hurting. Wasn't nothing right on him when they brought him in, bro. I was like, oh man, I see it already. He looked worse than Richard Dent when I played with Richard Dent. Dent.
Oh my goodness.
And he still came in and gave us a little production, but I didn't see anything from him. Nothing, not a thing, man. And Richard Dent, that's the first guy I saw in a locker room that had really like gray hair, like looked old. Like Richard Dent looked old when he came to me. He looked like he would, you know what I'm saying, like he could have been my pops or something, you know. So that's how Richard Dent.
The best is if you look back at some of the video, like the NFL film stuff, like look at what like George Blanda and like look at what Y.A. Tittle look like. Those guys look like they were in their 60s. They're like, George Y.A. Tittle at 28. I'm like, 28?
He's 28. I can't believe it, man. I'm looking at him like, yo.
My man had a hard paper route. You know what I mean? Like there must have been a lot going on when Y.A. Tittle was young. Man, whoa. He must have. Bro, they must have been tough.
I played with Kirk Cavell. Kirk Cavell looked like, man, he looked like he's oh man. I'm trying to think of a place. I don't want to disrespect anybody's job, man, but he looked like he was rode hard and put out the pass. Yeah. Oh, you know, and also I played with what was his name? Defensive end. He came from Houston. He's with the Titans.
Fuller.
William Fuller.
Yeah.
William Fuller looked old too. I'm like, damn, look at them. Now I'm the old guy, but I'm looking at them. They look really old, bro. I fooled them for years. They weren't trying to fool anybody, man.
Well, they used to do the like, here's George Bland at 43. Here's Tom Brady. Brady looks like he's 25,
32,
and Blanda looked 70. But anyway.
How do you get older and look better? I mean, Tom, terrific, man. I don't know what he is, the fountain of youth or whatever.
Yeah,
but he looks like when he first came in, he looked like Dudley Do-Right. And now he looks like he's, you know what I'm saying?
I know.
Saturday matinee idol.
Yep. I don't know. Maybe someday we'll find out what the secret is. But all right. So looking at what the Eagles, I mean, the thing is, what they really need is linebacker and safety are the two spots that they need. But we know they're not taking them in the first round. Is there anybody else that you would consider? Take Anderson out of it and take Jalen Carter out of it. Is there anybody else that you guys would consider? If you do a move up, whether that's a move up to get to where the Cardinals are or Seattle or Detroit or whatever, is there any other, I'll say defensive player, but whatever, could you open up to either side of the ball? Is there anybody else you would move up to that you like enough to grab up there?
No. I guess potential would be a Tyree Wilson. Potentially, he could be really good. I mean, really good.
Maybe Nolan Smith.
Well, I think he'll be right around 10 when we need to pick him up.
Yeah, he might be there.
He's my guy. Like if we had the draft, Who would I pick at number 10 that'd be worth the resources for number 10? It would be Nolan Smith, Georgia. So that's the direction I would go.
Okay. So you wouldn't move up. You would just sit there and hope that Nolan Smith.
Yeah, I would
falls
stand
down
pat. I would stand pat.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Now, you look at the running back situation, just to get back to the running back thing that we were talking about a little bit earlier. So they go into the season with Rashard Penny, with Boston Scott, with Kenneth Gainwell, and they have Trey Sermon on the roster as well. So here's the issue with Penny. Nobody questions what kind of running back he is when he's on the field. He's very good, but he's missed 39 games in 5 years, guys. Career 5.7 yards per carry. Most games he's played in a year is 14. Like, he's missed significant time. So I think you have to, at least, if you're the Eagles, unless you really believe, like, hey, Kenneth Scott, Gainwell, I know what a fan you are of Gainwell, Barry. Unless you totally believe in those guys, there's probably something else coming here. Whether it's, some people want Bijan, but you're probably drafting a guy later too, I would think.
If push comes to shove, they will find a low-tier veteran back, or they'll draft it back in the later rounds. If they don't have any more draft capital, if Howard's not able to pull off where he's getting some picks back in the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, I think they'll take another young back. Bringing in Rashard Penny is a big gamble, but if you can keep him healthy, it's going to be worth that gamble at a low price. You didn't pay a whole lot to bring a Penny in here, so it would be worth it, to take that risk. I still say I want to see what Trey Sermon can do. He has a burst. He's a fresh body. He's not overused, and people keep discounting him, but he's a pretty good young back. We know what Boston Scott. We know what Gainwell can do. We know they're not going to keep 5 running backs on this roster. So you need one more commodity. That's why I keep saying I don't think a running back is a high priority for this organization right now.
Absolutely not.
If you look at some of the better names that have been in football in recent years, from Nick Chubb, Miles Sanders, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, those were all 2nd-round picks. Aaron Jones, 5th-round pick. Jamal Williams, 4th-round pick. Tony Pollard, 4th round. Kareem Hunt, who everybody drools over, 3rd-round pick. You're still in position to get possibly get the next future one of those players, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round, if you can get a 4th-round pick somewhere. That's why I know this team is not going to put a high premium on a running back in the 1st round, because their method has been tried and proven. You look at the year they won the Super Bowl. They went out and got 2 free agents who didn't cost them a whole lot of money, and LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi. They had a rookie in Corey Clement. They had a stable of back. They didn't have a one dominant back. And that's also Doug Peterson's method as well. I don't need a dominant back in my backfield. It's Andy Reid's method as well. I don't need that dominant back, although he did draft, Hilaire in the 1st round. Look, Hilaire get hurt. The running game didn't miss a beat, did it, when he was out? And
he's basically on the outs.
Exactly. Now he's all of a sudden on the out. He was a 32nd pick in the draft the year he came, 31st, 32nd the year he came out. But they get guys named McKinnon. They found a guy named Pacheco. It's about those teams. It's about the system. It's not about the individuals, and it works for them. And I don't see the Eagles changing that MO.
I don't either.
Why should they?
Just look at last year, right? Basically, other than say Amalo, I'm keeping Miles out of this for a minute. You have the same team returning, right? So your offense was incredibly dynamic, and I'm not taking anything away from Miles Sanders. I thought he had a good year. He had a really solid year for them. But my belief is you can plug somebody into that role, in which, and remember, you took Miles in the 2nd round. You can plug somebody into that role. You have a great offensive line that's phenomenal at run blocking, by the way. Okay, you have a dynamic passing game, which allows you to be able to do some things in the run game that maybe other teams who can't pass it as well can do, play action and RPOs and all that. You have a dynamic quarterback who teams have to honor. What I'm saying is you don't have to have a great, spectacular running back to keep the train moving the way this team needs the train to be moving.
No.
So I'm not using it. I'm not using a pick on a running back that high. I can't do it. Too many other things you need.
Too many other things. And I get it. I get it. You see a guy out there that's done a lot, you know what I'm saying? But you got to think also, number one, he's in the Big 12. Big 12, you know, and that's my conference. I was in the Big 8 conference that turned into the Big 12. Not a lot of defense out there. It's a passing league. That's number one. Number two, his potential is great. He can catch the ball off the backfield. He has speed to get to the outside. He can run in between the tackles. He's good. But will we have him as a bell cow back? You get backs like that when he's going to be, you know, maybe 50% of your offense. In this offense, he won't even be close to 20% of the offense, you know, with all the talent that they have everywhere on the field, at the wide receiver positions, tight end position. The guys that are going to be playing, and he won't start because you got guys there who already have pedigree to be starters. So, I mean, the likelihood of we getting him is slim to none because we're not going to use him like a bell cow back. We're not going to give him 20 to 25 reps a game. At the most, our starting number one running back, and if they draft him, he would probably be that guy. He probably have 12 to 14 snaps. That's how they run their offense.
Yeah, it is. It is. As frustrating as it gets people who, you know, still believe they should be running at a ton. That's just the way they operate. You know, they believe in the pass. You win with the pass. You win by throwing the ball. Hey, passing this along, the Panthers will work out Bryce Young. They're going to have Bryce Young in, I think it's tomorrow. He will be coming in. Yeah, he will visit the Panthers Tuesday. Yeah, this one's been interesting. There's been a lot of leaks out there. Chris Mortensen, one of them, other people too, saying that they actually like Bryce Young better than Stroud. I don't know if that's a smokescreen or not. I don't know that you really need to do a smokescreen when you're picking first. I don't really know how that's a necessity, but maybe they just like Bryce Young better.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe Frank Reich thinks he's that guy.
You know, every team gets to bring in 30 players. Why wouldn't you bring in? If you're torn between Stroud and Bryce, you want every opportunity possible to look at them up closely, to sit down and talk to them. You know, teams feel that they get a lot better feeling, not just by watching them go through the mechanics of performing on the field, but getting to know them as people as well, getting to know more about their background, where they come from, family, so on and so forth. They want to feel good about the culture of a player who could potentially come into this organization and, more importantly, be the face of your franchise. You know, so, you know, these leaks start happening. The closer we get to draft time, these leaks keep happening more and more. And it's understandable. There are some smoke screens involved here, but there's a lot of legitimacy behind them, especially when you're in the top 7, top 8 picks. If this guy is going to be a cornerstone of our franchise, and if we're torn between more than one player, let's get them in here as much as we can to get a better feel for them. That's understandable.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I don't blame them one bit.
Yeah, no, totally. So just pass it out.
Oh, and also before we go into another topic, guys.
Sure.
I see a lot of people in the stream don't like Nolan Smith. I'm telling you guys, all I'm gonna say is do a little research on him, look at a little film on him, and you'll figure out what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? They say he doesn't have the size. Can't say that. He's strong enough. In fact, he played as a natural freshman. He started just a couple games his freshman year at Georgia. I'm talking about prime time Georgia. He ran a 4.3 40. 4.3. He's 6'2". He's about 240. Look him up. He can set the edge. He's strong enough that he barrels over tackles. You know, so he runs straight through tackles. If you think he's too small, well, somebody should remind Hassan Reddick that he's too small, who plays every single down. First, second, and third down, fourth down, whatever. Plays every day, every single down. Nolan Smith is an inch taller than Hassan Reddick. They weigh the same. Hassan Reddick ran a 4.5. This kid runs a 4.3. Talking about a vertical jump. His vertical jump is 41 inches. This kid is not too small. He's going to be dynamic. All I'm going to say is just do your research and look at the film. Just look at the film. That's all I'm going to say is look at the film. Watch him set the edge. Watch him Debo big tackles. Watch him run around guys. Watch him run through guys. You know, that's all I'm going to say. You know, the number, don't let the numbers just, you know, the amount of sacks and everything, the numbers, you know, lead you astray. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I do. I think there's always the fear factor with the size, et cetera. But if you turn the tape on, you watch these guys, you get a better handle on it. All right. So we'll dive back into the running backs. We're going to go through our top prospects coming up at 2:00. A bunch of other stuff that we'll get into too. Did you guys see any of this Dwayne Haskins lawsuit story?
No, what?
Family claiming he got drugged. Essentially this was all a setup. There's a lot going on. We'll get into that too. It's a very
wow. They had to say he was walking out on the highway.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into that a little bit later too. So when we come back, we'll dig a little bit into the Phillies who lost yesterday to the Reds 6-4 in a game they absolutely had. So we'll go back into that. Sixers playoffs underway. We'll look at who's got to step up here besides Embiid and Harden. Embiid, who was the leading scorer, and Harden, who was the leading assist man. We'll dig into that too. That's Derek. That's Barrett. I'm Rob. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk a little bit about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because finding that right person, that could be a struggle, right? And I'm right there at the front of the line. It took me a long time, but I did find the right person with Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group. And for you, whether it's retirement planning, if it's your insurance review, you feel like you're paying a little bit too much, employee benefits, if you have your own business, you're trying to get those off the ground, that's another resource that Jim can help you with. I know I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim. I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You can email him as well, Murray, Murray.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.